Hello everybody, I'm Gary Palmer Jr., you're you. Together, welcome to Minting Coins. Today, as I start this journey into the world of Bitcoins and blockchain technologies, I wanted to give a deeper introduction of myself to you, to let you know who I am and where I was as Bitcoin began its revolution. Growing up as a kid, I always daydreamed of utopias, space travel, and working with dolphins as a marine biologist. I had a lot of responsibility as the second oldest of 6 kids, especially in this crazy world. My saving grace was knowing the differences between a high IQ and a high EQ, and how each affects people differently. I knew that hard work beats talent, especially when talent doesn't work hard. So while smarter people quit or didn't even try, I persevered. I persevered by breaking complex subjects down into simple pieces and then putting them back together again. Growing up, my talents weren't exactly clear, but I figured out how to pay attention. I figured out systems and how systems work, and I didn't give up. I didn't let any obstacles stand in my way. I'm one of these tail-end Gen Xers who grew up working hard and playing hard. I grew up with square TVs, the original 8-bit Nintendo, and playing Oregon Trail when they first introduced computers in my elementary school. I was just a kid when the internet came out to the mainstream. Those images would load line by line on Netscape browsers. All the technology was so new, it was just being established. Separately, but at the same time in the background of the world, in between the lines of the narrative of the local and nightly news, it was obvious, and also difficult to really accept that we were all living in some crazy dystopian novel. Part sci-fi, definitely to be determined. By high school, the internet had established chat rooms and group forums, places like Yahoo and obscure BBSs, before early adopters really knew what to do with the World Wide Web. It was all new. Today, your phone and the internet are the same, but back then you couldn't be on the internet if there was an important phone call expected, or not unless you were well enough to have a second phone line at the time dedicated for just the internet itself at home. The internet seemed to evolve slowly over the 1990s. Then I began my professional career in 1998. Now, to give some context, Google was first incorporated in 1998, and they had no idea how to make any money. They had no AdWords, no Gmail, no analytics, and people didn't understand things like email, let alone the internet itself. News and commentary laughed at the internet because they said it was all a fad, that no one would ever put their credit card into a website, that no one would ever buy shoes or clothing online, since most people wouldn't be able to hold these items or try them on. It was all so new and so different from what the mainstream was used to. And let's not get into what people thought of online dating at the time. But now we have crazy dating apps on supercomputer smartphones in our pockets, dating apps that seem to get crazier and crazier every year. But, the technology back then and the internet was just kind of shunned. Most people thought the internet and email was kind of stupid, and it'd be like if someone wanted to make billions of dollars by selling water in a bottle or air in a bottle. Anyway, I started my professional career in 1998. All the time I worked toward my bachelor's degree and then eventually my MBA. I worked from day one in operations, communications, and marketing online. Still today, I work with executives and business owners in connecting internet technologies with business systems to increase brand visibility for targeted users. Increasing qualified leads, boosting efficiency, growing sales revenue online. I started doing this working as a young guy, working hard, living life, and unfortunately with that, starting in debt from a burdensome student loan system. From there, here's an overview of my timeline. In the year 2000, there was the dot-com financial crash. Out of the gate, it was a big blow for everyone. In 2001, the September 11th attacks and the start of the war in Afghanistan. And later 2003 began the long war in Iraq. All of this crisis, fear, uncertainty, doubt, and destruction facilitated further crisis in America and world financial systems. Starting in 2007, there was a global financial crisis, which is hard for most people to forget. Then, it all kicked into overdrive, starting with the United States housing bubble. On September 29, 2008, the Dow Jones dropped 777 points, down almost 7%, which was the largest one-day change between a given day's close and the close of the previous trading day. Then later, in December 30th, 2008, the Case-Shiller Home Price Index recorded its largest price drop in history. Now, The home prices and the Dow Jones were extremely intimately connected. And saying that this was a lot of financial loss is just a gross understatement of the situation. People lost their financial hopes, financial dreams, important money for their lives and their children's future. People's hard work, life savings, destroyed and gone forever just like that, and poof. The dystopian world that I grew up through was at the peak of collapse. And this wasn't an exaggeration at all. There was literally a financial Armageddon level event of serious and catastrophic proportions. This was when the US banking bailout happened to prevent or prolong that pending collapse. In many ways, the bailout is still ongoing even through today. What was scariest for me was, at this point in my life, I have a wife and my 5 children to care for. Yes, I have 5 beautiful children. In America, the world, and the dollar were all on the verge of collapse. It was crazy, all out WTF, OMG, and no one really knew what was going to happen. No one wanted to understand how bad it really was, but all the bankers knew. And they explained the situation to politicians, and then the bailout happened. Now, I think this was for the better, since it has given us time to prepare for the next time, which may be inevitable, which then we might not be so lucky unless we prepare, so we need to prepare. Now, the world financial fiasco hit US and world markets all the way to 2012. And with 2012 around the corner, it felt like doomsday after doomsday after doomsday. And with no hope from anyone with any real power, the Occupy Wall Street movement happened in 2011. Do you remember any of this? Do you remember all of this? Start commenting below. Anyway, at this point, Bitcoin had existed for maybe 3 years, and at this point, I had still not heard about Bitcoin yet. Between August 2012 and August 2016, I was living in the Bay Area with my family, and it was in the spring or summer 2013 that I first heard about Bitcoin. It was from some of the meetup groups I was a part of in the San Francisco Bay Area, and my following of Bitcoin continued with my work at Rebel Systems iPad point of sale, where we had an early integration with Coinbase.com. Now, at first, Bitcoin was really vague and information was sparse, which I know is still the case for many people even today. And for me, there was conflicting information coming from my sources at the time. For example, a lot of folks were saying that Bitcoin was 100% private, but really Bitcoin is only semi-anonymous. My exposure to Bitcoin was also right up to the $1,000 in value, and then leading to the massive crash in December 2013, which eventually led to a loss of about 80% of its value. Now, for better or for worse, for me, I was so busy supporting my family and working to pay the bills in the San Francisco Bay Area with 5 kids who didn't pay rent, I knew not to pump money that I didn't have into a system that I didn't fully understand. Still, watching Bitcoin build up in value in 2013 was nothing short of amazing. Even with its crash, which landed higher than when it started, there was a flare of opportunity so bright, many people have been blinded by its promise ever since. Too many people saw the revolution of a decentralized, peer-to-peer electronic version of cash, which Bitcoin and blockchain technology is now providing the world. On a side note, what was most interesting about the crash of Bitcoin in 2013 and each time that Bitcoin has crashed in the past was that it actually landed higher than when it started. It crashed at $1, it crashed at $10, it crashed at $100, and now recently it crashed at over $1,000. If you get into any market at the wrong time and sell, then you're going to lose money. Yet if you had invested it in 2013, 4 years later, now in 2017, anyone would actually be back up and in the green. Now, unfortunately, this is not the case if you had all your money in the form of dollars with the United States or any other fiat currency in the world for that matter. While the US housing bubble was exploding like the Hindenburg, the financial destruction continued to sweep across Europe and in through Asia and the rest of the world. In 2008, the Icelandic financial crisis and the Irish banking crisis too. In 2009, the Greek government debt crisis. In 2010, the European sovereign debt crisis. 2014, the Russian financial crisis. And then the Brazilian economic recession in South America, also starting in 2014. Then in 2015, the Chinese stock market crash, where the Chinese yuan is still devaluing even today. And this could become the crash there, similar to what the United States had in 2008. In the fall of 2016, the country of India made cash tender payments illegal for large transactions, and all of these economic crises are continuing to happen even through today. Meanwhile, Bitcoin bottomed out in January 2015, about $210. and it's risen to over $1,000 in 2017. And while all of our grandparents worked hard and trusted the banks and governments to protect us, it seems that there's been a lot of loss in trust in the existing banking system, which many people in the world can't even be a part of. In the United States, since 1933, there's been a destruction of the US dollar and a loss of wealth through the mass weapon of inflation. In 1964, the minimum wage was 5 silver quarters, and in 2017, the melt value of 5 silver quarters is about $15. But not anymore. The financial events that happened in 2008 have accelerated these concerns for both US currency and global currencies around the world. Now, since I started my professional life and personal life, there's been a lot of economic collapse and financial destruction, all of which has happened during the prime of my life and my career. It's unfortunate for me and for my family, yet I can't complain. While I would like to be giving my family everything that my family wants to survive and be successful, while I'm hustling, I'm delivering, keeping heat in the house and food on the table, other people are having a much harder time. While I have had some means to support myself and my large family, there are so many more people who have so fewer options available. And good people who are very different from each other are triggered to fight with each other, or worse, to ignore each other, when maybe we should be talking to one another and actually supporting one another. In 2016, there's even been talks about removing the US $100 bill in the United States from circulation to force people to use digital online card payments, effectively making large cash payments illegal. Meanwhile, in our nation, militarized police and private military forces are aggressively taking land from Native Americans outside defined bounds of US law and treaty just to place the Dakota Access Pipeline, which is guaranteed to spill oil into those major communities at some point in the future, just like the pipelines in Pennsylvania, the pipelines in Louisiana, and anywhere that there's been a pipeline placed. They have their priorities and they say it's in the name of progress and security, yet kids in Flint, Michigan still don't have clean drinking water. And if you live in America, you can't be sure if your kid's water is clean or toxic. So how do we support each other, make life better for our families, our communities, and make sure kids have clean drinking water? Anyway, I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area in August 2012. On a side note, some people say I'm crazy for moving a family of 7 across the country twice in 12 months. I think it's more crazy that I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area 4 months before December 12, 2012. So, since 2012, life and business in the San Francisco Bay Area has been great. But while the economy there had been successful, there was no relief in the economic pain points, which is mainly the cost of housing, and the adverse way it affects most people. It was in San Francisco I was able to experience the differences between relative wealth and absolute wealth, since I had never been so prosperous, but at the same time I had never had such a small apartment or so few resources just to get by, on top of being nickeled and dimed in every opportunity available. So now I'm back in New York. I'm doing in New York what I was doing there, looking to expand new connections, expand into the new Bitcoin industry, and grow into the next stages of my personal and professional life. And now I started minting coins, and I did so for many reasons. I did because I like business, I did because I loved marketing, I did because I like Bitcoin and blockchain technology. I did because I believe when we put it all together, I think that we can change the world. So that's who I am. I don't do things perfectly, I make mistakes, I'm likely not the smartest guy in the room or the richest, but I do put it all together. I'm humbled, I'm super grateful, and I don't give up. I know if we want to get through this, then we need to get through this together. I think the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. I used to define integrity as what you did when no one was looking, and now I also understand how integrity is also what you do when everyone is looking. And while everyone is looking, I started minting coins for all of us. Because I believe in myself, I believe in you, and I believe you might be looking for this information. When I first started hearing about Bitcoin, I knew it could be a revolution of currency, gold, money 2.0. I knew I needed more information before I could make good decisions, and now I want to make sure you have this information too, so you can make good decisions in a world which is creating new blockchain technology for and beyond just Bitcoin faster than most people can keep up with. I was always a little saddened that I missed the beginning of the internet and the domain name grab. Now, I want to make sure that none of us miss out on this new technology on the blockchain, or Bitcoin, which I think is the greatest invention our species has ever seen since the internet itself. This cryptocurrency journey has already been a crazy ride, and it doesn't matter if you're 18 or 81 years old. Start paying attention, start learning, start controlling your own money. Don't let this opportunity pass you by, or your family, or your friends. So, there you have some of my personal history. In a world craving privacy, we're also seeking truth and connection. And you know, everyone has excuses, but you're never really going to connect with someone unless you drop in, really listen, and reflect on what they're saying. And I want to thank you for listening to what I have to say. And with that, we will talk again soon. Please share or like this video if it taught or inspired you. It really helps the channel, and I really appreciate your support. I have new videos on the way, and I'm getting new tips and information to share with you, so be sure to stick around. Please subscribe if you like my work, and comment below, because I want to know, what do you think? I want to know, what do you want to know more about? What questions do you have? And did I just embarrass myself on YouTube? Let's find out in the comments below. Alright everyone, have a great day, and I'm glad that together, we're minting coins.